All right, a couple of stories that I want to bring to your attention. Democrats lie, and they lie all the time. I'm speaking of none other than Gavin, Newsom. Who's this other guy? Graham Plattner, Zoran Mamdani. I got some stories that I want to bring to your attention. Why Dems lie. They lie because they're unimpressive people with unimpressive policies. I'm not talking about your typical voters. I'm not talking about your laymen. I'm talking about the people that want to represent you. I'll get into those stories. I got 3 of them in my formerly fingerprinted fingertips. Also, this bombshell broke today. Actually, Comer unleashes on Biden demands DOJ probe of Autopen use. In a scathing new report. So this is from Fox News. This is the summary. The House Oversight Committee Chair James Comer is demanding that the DOJ conduct a comprehensive investigation into former President Joe Biden's Autopen use. The committee's GOP majority released a 100-page report on Tuesday detailing findings from its month-long probe into Biden's White House, specifically whether his inner circle covered up signs of mental decline in the ex-president, and if the alleged cover-up extended to executive actions signed via the Autopen without Biden's full awareness. So I know what you're thinking. If you're a sane human being with a modicum of common sense like I am, you're thinking, of course, his inner circle had these executive orders signed by the Autopen or directed someone to do them. Simply because we all watch Biden and we know that his brain was mush. And I'm not saying that to be mean. It was completely obvious what was being done to him by his family members and those that were surrounding him, including his inner circle. That was mean. It was elder abuse. Here's what the report said. Quote, faced with cognitive decline of President Joe Biden, White House aides at the direction of the inner circle hid the truth about the former president's condition and fitness for office. The report also detailed a quote unquote haphazard documentation process for pardons made by Biden, which the committee argued left room for doubt over whether Biden made those decisions himself. They say, and I quote, in the absence of sufficient contemporaneous documentation indicating that cognitively deteriorating President Biden himself made a given executive decision, such decisions do not carry the force of law and should be considered void. This is a big deal. All right, because what they're saying, and actually they take this report. Let me actually just read it a little further. The DOJ should immediately conduct a review of all executive actions taken by President Biden between January 2021 and January 19, 2025. What's significant about those dates or that time frame? That's his entire presidency. So in other words, the investigation that the House Oversight Committee has been doing, they've been able to go all the way back to his very first day in office and ask questions as to whether or not he was really running the show. That is damaging. Now, we expected that. I thought that there were times where Biden was lucid, where he was able to make decisions, and then they went ahead and did stuff while his mind was still there. And then he's a sundowner, I assume. And then once his mind goes, haywire at 4 or 5 o'clock or whatever in the afternoon, then it's a done deal. Then it's wraps. It sounds like they had early indications that the guy was not fit to serve from day one. So it says, anyway, the DOJ should immediately conduct a review of all executive actions taken by President Biden between January 2021 and January 19, 2025. Given the patterns and findings detailed herein, this review should focus particularly on all acts of clemency. However, it should also include all other types of executive actions. Listen to this. In addition to concerns about who signed off on Biden's executive actions, Comer spent part of the report raising concerns about Hunter Biden's role in the pardon process. The ex-Biden chief of staff, a guy by the name of Jeff Zients, told investigators that Hunter Biden was in the room for some pardon discussions. Specifically, the controversial preemptive pardons the ex-president gave to his relatives. Zients said it was toward the end, and I'm quoting, "What comes to mind is the family discussions, but I don't know. That doesn't mean that was it. It was the pardons towards the end, the very end of the administration. And I think it was a few meetings, not many meetings." He's talking about that Hunter Biden was in discussing these details with the inner circle. Zients testified that Biden included his son Hunter Biden in the decision-making process for and meetings about pardons. This is apparently including the meeting to discuss the pardons of 5 Biden family members, Dr. Anthony Fauci, General Mark Milley, and the members of Congress who served on the select subcommittee to investigate J6. So they can all thank Hunter Biden. You had a crackhead running the show at times. The Oversight Committee called a total of 14 witnesses across 3 months, mainly consisting of the top Biden administration aides, including some that knew him for decades. Comer suggested that he believed aides covered for Biden, even in the committee room. The report said throughout the committee's investigation, senior Biden White House aides presented a perspective of President Biden's cognitive health completely disconnected from that of the American public. In other words, they were either delusional or they were lying. I suspect they were lying to try to cover their butts. Because frankly, if they sit there and tell the truth, if they say that, yeah, it was so obvious that the guy was out of his mind, that he had crap for brains, if you will, then they would be in trouble. They would be criminally liable. Not one of the committees, and I'm quoting from the report, committee's 14 witnesses was willing to admit that they ever had a concern about President Biden being in cognitive decline. In fact, numerous witnesses could not recall having a single conversation about President Biden's cognitive health with anyone inside or outside of the White House. And his physician, this guy should be in trouble. Dr. Kevin O'Connor was his name. Comer, apparently the House Oversight Committee chair, spent a lot of time in the report criticizing him in particular. O'Connor's sworn deposition was among the shortest because the guy basically pled the fifth. So what's happening is Comer has called for the D.C. Health Board of Medicine to investigate O'Connor and potentially bar him from practicing medicine. If it's in D.C., he probably will not be barred, but his refusal to answer questions, he should be barred. There were literally people, let me see if I can find the story from Just the News real quick. As I search through my phone with my formerly fingerprinted fingertips here. Excuse me, this is live. Let's see if I just want to read you part of this. They give some examples of people that served at the behest of Biden that absolutely didn't even know who was operating the Autopen at times, when in fact they were the ones that should have been overseeing it. So, for example, Neera Tanden, who served as a senior advisor and staff secretary, this now from Just the News, hopping from the column from Fox News. Neera Tanden, who served as a senior advisor and staff secretary during Biden's term, testified before the committee that she had remarkably little interaction with the president. Listen to this. Despite her responsibility to record presidential decisions and actions. So she's supposed to record. That's part of her job. Presidential decisions and actions as part of her job. But she had little interaction with the guy. That is a daily, hourly job. As staff secretary, Tanden was responsible for managing the decision materials and sending them to the Oval Office operations. However, Tanden said that she only saw the president once every 6 to 8 weeks. It should have been once every 6 to 8 minutes. Seriously. This is insane. Tanden also admitted to the committee, despite being in charge of directing the use of so she was in charge for directing the use of the Autopen. One person. So you can go to that one person to make sure that they got the permission, they got the call from the president of the United States, they got the instructions from the president of the United States. So listen to this. Tanden admitted to the committee, despite being in charge of directing the use of the Autopen, she was given little insight into how those acts were being approved, and said she did not know who in Biden's inner circle was ultimately approving the actions. What? This is a bombshell case. Now, again, we all know that Joe Biden wasn't there. I mean, you've got Karine Jean-Pierre. I should have pulled up a video clip. You got Karine Jean-Pierre out there talking about, when I was in the room with him, I saw the president every day. And when I was in the room with him, basically, he was all there. She never saw anything. She's either lying or dumb as all get out. All right. And probably a little bit of both. Let's be honest. The same thing with Kamala Harris. Now, Kamala Harris lied forever. Basically, she didn't notice anything. Now, all of a sudden, she's on her book tour. And, maybe I should have said something, maybe I should have said something sooner. I'm paraphrasing here. But basically, she came out and said that. That's insane. That's complete insanity. Honestly, what's so disturbing about this is I'm not sure how much accountability is going to be brought to bear, even though it should be. I believe that all of his executive actions that were not signed with his permission should be null and void. But you would set dangerous precedents. So we'll have to wait and see what happens. Hey guys, Carl Jackson here for MyPillow. A major retail chain just canceled a massive order, leaving MyPillow with an overstock of classic MyPillows. Now it's your gain. For a limited time, MyPillow is offering their entire classic collection at true wholesale prices. You get the standard MyPillow for just $17.98. If you want more, upgrade to queen size for only $22.98 or king size for $24.98. Snag body pillows for just $29.98. And versatile multi-use pillows for just $9.98. All you have to do is go to mypillow.com, use the promo code Carl, that is CARL, or call 800-858-0263. All right. Plus, when you order totals of $75 or more, you'll receive $100 in free digital gifts, no strings attached. That's right. Premium pillows at unbeatable prices and bonus gifts to top it all off. Don't wait. Head to mypillow.com right now or call 800-858-0263. And don't forget to use the promo code Carl, CARL, to grab your standard MyPillow for just $17.98. That is insane. Can't beat that with a bat.